name's Artemis, and I don't really think it's much of an exaggeration to say that the furry community is the pinnacle of the furry experience. It is the real cornerstone of the fandom. These wonderful, amazing places where we can go and enjoy good times with like-minded people, free from the judgment, and honestly, probably the most authentic furry experience your money can buy. Second only really to freaking out the general public whilst you are quietly a disappointment as you fursuit in the streets. But seeing how important these conventions are to our fandom, it did get me thinking what would be some of the really good things that we all enjoy, what would be some of the bad things that actually hamper and damper our little experiences here, and what would you really think would be the best convention and why, more importantly. So I scoured the opinions and views of those on the internet and came up with what I think is a good representation of the good, the bad, and the outright fucking ugly of the furry convention scene. So let's dive right into it. Starting things off on a high note, we have all of the good shit about furry conventions, the reasons we love them so much, and ultimately the reasons why we actually bother turning up. A little while ago, I put out a little survey asking about people's opinions on conventions, things like the best. I did ask about the worst, but don't worry, I ain't gonna fucking shame that convention. Things that people like about conventions, things they don't like, and the reasons why. Just so I got a feel about what the general feel of what conventions are like is amongst the minds of furries, and also it meant that people did the legwork for me and I didn't have to go out and do any independent research on my own, and it worked perfectly. Honestly, when it comes to the good stuff, I'm sure you can all guess the top reasons, so let's list them off. Spending time with friends, attending panels and events, buying things in the dealer's den, probably dicks, fursuiting, room parties, photography opportunities, that's got a good one, I like that, and the raves and dances. None of that is really unexpected now, is it? We all know why these things are great. I don't need to go into too many fucking details about a lot of it. It's pretty obvious, we're all going to understand, but I will have to say that the chief reason, the one that was voted on the most, I suppose, or just at least mentioned the most, is the social aspect. I think it's fair to say that the most rewarding part of, well, not just the furry convention, but the furry experience itself is the social aspect. Unfortunately, life plagues us with the curse of distance when it comes to making friends online. So when we find our way into this fandom, we find a place we can be accepted and enjoy the things that we enjoy, free mostly of judgment. It's very freeing, it's very wonderful, and then we realise, oh shit, I live like 2,000 miles away from everybody I fucking love. That's why conventions are so fucking great and why we enjoy them so much, is because these are the excuses, these are the reasons, these are the full-on fucking holidays that we can use to meet up with everybody else. It is the perfect meeting point. And when we do get there, everything's free. It's exactly how we want it to be. I don't mean free as in cost, because they cost a lot. But we can fursuit around, we can take pictures, we can hang out, we can make stupid memes up in our own private room parties. That is the good shit. And yes, I suppose I could talk about all of the events, panels, room parties, raves, dances, and facilities that different conventions have. I can make a little argument about, oh, Confuzzle's got the best headless lounge and shit like that. But again, it's all subjective. Not everybody going to a convention is going to want to go to any panels. Not everybody who goes to a convention is going to want to even think about missing a dance contest. Not everyone's going to fursuit. Some will fursuit the entire time. So I can't really put a fucking answer down and say this is the absolute best thing about a convention, because it is subjective unto the individual. And I honestly think no matter how much I could talk about events, panels, guests of honor, facilities, staff, location, the social aspect is always going to be the point that trumps. At the end of the day, if you took all your friends away, it doesn't really matter how good the con is. You're still not going to get as much enjoyment out, because they are the most important part. But of course, for every good point, there is also going to be a bad point that counteracts it. And as much as these places are simply fantastic for us, we can really enjoy some great times, it's still populated by people. And if there is one undying fact of the universe that you just cannot fucking hide from, it is that people are are fucking assholes. Some of these crabby aspects are simply inescapable and can include things such as people not showering. Furries can just be plain weird. Boy, is that an understatement. Registration lines, overcrowding, and sometimes a lack of coordination. Cliques and social groups. Sometimes the schedule just doesn't match up with what you want it to. Travel time. Smut just out in the open. Now, we're all going to have a list of things that we don't like about a convention, and largely that's just down to personal preference, but I do feel there are a few that are pretty universal. And of course, one of the biggest goddamn complaints that is most definitely universal to everyone is people not being able to fucking clean themselves. Like, you'll spend thousands of dollars on a fursuit, but apparently soap is too expensive or some shit. Honestly, it's enough to spoil my fucking enjoyment of a con if I'm walking around and all I can smell is rotting human flesh. Jesus Christ, why? Fucking why? The issue of people being people is a pretty hard one to tackle. I mean, obviously some people are just naturally going to be dickheads, regardless of their interests or association with a fandom, and some people are just going to be a bit fucking weird, and we're just going to have to kind of deal with that. Sure, a furry convention can kind of boost your exposure to people like this, but it's not something that is exclusive to furry conventions. You go to an anime convention, you're going to find fucking weirdos there as well. But honestly, I've seen enough friends played by fucking creeps, stalkers, and just drama-baiting ass cunts to know that sometimes, yeah, it is the fucking people that ruin a good con. Sometimes it's unavoidable. You know, if a con gets to a certain size, then yes, registration lines are going to be long. Overcrowding is going to be a factor. You can't get around that. If you want wedge lines to be shorter, volunteer, okay? There's only a certain amount of staff to run these things, and they're going to get pretty stretched when 10,000 people come and knock it on their door. And yes, things like smut being out in the open, but that could also be a good thing. I know a lot of people who are going to be very happy that they can wear their, bondage gear and shit at a room party and maybe parade about at fucking midnight or in some conventions all throughout the day. But I also know plenty of people, myself included, who don't want to see that shit and find it awkward to see that shit. And I'm not gonna, say that, oh, that offends me, so you shouldn't wear it. But maybe I will say, oh, there's fucking children over there, so you shouldn't wear it. Like, there's a time and a place. And yeah, it does kind of spoil the illusion, spoil the fun a little bit, where you've got some gas mask gimp wandering about and a whole family trying desperately to avoid fucking making eye contact. Now, I'm sure you thought the bad stuff was as bad as it gets, but oh fucking no, I didn't even get to the tip of the iceberg there, for God's sake. Now, I'm going to keep this brief because I don't want to go digging up skeletons and ripping open old wounds, and I sure as shit don't want to turn this into some controversial piece of fucking wank where the comment section is basically on fire. So I'm just going to glance over these because we're all going to already know exactly what I'm talking about. Furry conventions have a history of very ugly shit affecting them. You have things such as the whole rainforest debacle, incidents of dry humping in public places, fetish gear fully on display to the point where people have to be told, that one dickhead, who it's not worth naming, deliberately turning up at certain conventions only to get kicked out like 20 minutes later for their douchebaggery, gas attacks and threats of violence, known and convicted sexual predators leading over 18 only adult panels. Oh boy. And of course, the recent controversies revolving around MFF. You see, I think the real problem here is that the furry fandom is seen as this wildly polarized thing. We are something in society that is to be made fun of, to be heaped scorn upon. And it is something where we are sort of lobbed in with all of these other dickheads who are honestly far worse than us. And that might be why certain, right-wing assholes seek to re-platform themselves with us, because, we're attention grabbing. The media loves fucking taking the piss out of us with little whimsical bits of music and, oh, look at these freaks in fucking animal costumes. So it's very easy for us to draw attention to ourselves, and sometimes that's good, and unfortunately, sometimes that's very, very bad. The only real benefit we have with all of this ugliness is that it's fairly rare and it's few and far between. Like, not every con is going to have to deal with it. It's not something where, every convention you go to, you're going to have to be on guard for it. Now, there's always drama at a convention, but that's always going to be there. That is part of the experience. But at least when we get extreme shit like this, it's pretty rare. And all credit to the conventions, they know how to deal with this. You know, the second someone threatens some bullshit, security will be stepped up and whatnot. So, I mean, we are yet to have something truly, truly horrendous happen. I mean, even with the gas attacks, it was only, I think, 2 people sent to hospital, and they were minor injuries only. So, you know, by and large, we're pretty okay-ish. But yeah, there was some ugly shit. We can't hide from that. So, as part of the survey that I put out, I did actually ask the question, which convention is the best? And while I could give you a decent answer, and I probably will, it wasn't that answer that really interested me. It was the reasons behind it. You see, I found that the whole concept of which convention is the best is entirely subjective and unique to the individual answering the question and their own circumstance. Things like the location, the ease of travel, the atmosphere, the people that go there. These are all things that might be universal reasons that we all share, but they're all sort of directed at different things. Obviously, the ease of travel for, say, MFF is going to be really high for someone who lives in Chicago, but for me, flying across a fucking ocean, it's right the way at the bottom. So, yeah, that's not to say that MFF is worse because it's a ball ache for me to get to. It's just to say that for myself, it's potentially not going to be the best. And now I could talk about endless stats, attendance figures, cost to enjoyment ratios, the amount of people versus the amount of space, all the events that go on. I could talk about all of this, work out some bullshit equation to give you a numerical figure that says that this con is the best. But it would just be fucking bullshit. See, one thing I found looking at all these reasons is that the real truth to which convention is the best is what we make of it. It's not a matter of, oh, this one's the best because it puts on a dance contest. Nobody said that. Nobody said, like, oh, I go purely because of this. We go because of our friends. We go because we want to meet up at a place and have a good time. We go because of the experiences that are on offer and the freedom that we can feel. And ultimately, we are always going to consider the convention that is the best to be the one where we can get that for the most part. It all boils down to the experience itself and what we get out of it. And this isn't supposed to sound like some fucking massive inspirational, motivational thing, and I hope it doesn't sound like a cop-out. But honestly, it was very difficult. I wanted to. It was very difficult to put down a convention as this one's the best because of this, 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 and this, because it's just not possible. Everybody's experience is different. Everybody's level of enjoyment is different. Yes, I can tell you now, Confuzzled was the one that got the most answers. And yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, everything that you get at Confuzzled, you can get at every other con, at least, most of them at least. So it's not to say like, oh, Confuzzled's the great because of its location. It's the best there. It's like, well, there's a hell of a lot more that goes into it than a location. The reason I think a lot of us say whichever con we prefer is the best is because it's down to one singular thing that's happened there, or a set of things that have happened there. It's memories that it evokes. It is a feeling that it evokes. Confuzzled's going to be personal to me because it's the first one I went to. It's also in my country, so it's cheaper and easier to get to. But I could also argue that MFF is pretty fucking good because it got me to America. I met a lot of other people. It was a whole different experience. But there's always going to be that one couple of little things that are always going to tie you closer to one specific con, and you might not even be able to nail it down exactly what they are, but that is what the best convention is. It is what you have made of it, what other people have helped you make of it. Oh yeah, honestly, I did look at a lot of questions, seeing people online asking which convention is the best, which one should I go to, and I thought it's nice and cheap and easy to just fucking make a video about that and say, ah, you should go to this one. But I can't tell you that. I can't tell you which convention is going to be the best for you. I can tell you which conventions are going, which ones people like. I mean, Texas Furry Fiesta, FWA, Anthrocon, all of those, they were topping the list as well. They just didn't quite edge it out. There's loads of conventions that you can go to, but it's the ones that the whole experience is going to tie together. It's what you're going to be able to make of it. I mean, hell, if I was to tell you that, say, Anthrocon is the best convention in the world, but none of your fucking friends are going to Anthrocon, are you really going to believe me? No, because it's that friendly social connection which actually helps us tie things together, and that is what I think we should all be focusing on. So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm fucking copping out and not actually giving you a solid answer, but that is because if you look at it, there isn't one. There isn't a way to answer this question. So, yeah, hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully you got my meaning. But yeah, Confuzzle's the fucking best. You should go to that shit. It's absolutely amazing.